So, thank you for joining us here today on Kay's Collab Corner. I just want to ask you to share a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to everyone who might be watching.
Thank you so much for having me here today, first of all. So, my name is Sana Pirzada. I'm basically a lawyer, and I turned to writing about 9 years ago. I am basically a human rights lawyer, but I was absolutely passionate about Victorian Gothic fiction. I grew up in the UK, and that passion drove me to write 5 books. I've recently just published my fifth book, Tainted Whispers of Eden. So, yes, I'm a lawyer turned writer in a nutshell.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you for joining us. This is our second Authors Day. The first one we had was on January. And if you want to tell us or show us or discuss your book that you wrote so that we can see a little bit more about it. I know that it has been featured on the page. We actually did your feature sometime earlier this month, and it has a beautiful cover. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So I'll just show this to the audience. So this is the latest book. It's called Tainted Whispers of Eden, and so basically, the first couple of books were pure Victorian Gothic fiction. But then, because I am a lawyer at the end of the day, I brought in some legal aspects into my third book, Naomi Byron. And in this one is centered around a criminal libel trial at the Old Bailey in 1894. Now, because I'm based in Pakistan, my books are more sort of multicultural fiction, and this book is narrated by somebody who happens to be an Indian Muslim woman in Bombay in 1894. She travels to England and she lives at the abode of this beautiful woman, Shirley Lester, who is originally American, and she's married to an Englishman. And then there are just some horror aspects as well to the book. There are some mysteries that Zarina, the protagonist, unravels. And that sort of takes her to the Old Bailey. And she becomes at the center of this criminal libel trial. So, in one of my previous books, I had covered a murder trial, and I thought I would do something a little more interesting this time, being inspired by all the defamation trials that were happening all over the world. And so, yeah, so that's at the heart of this book in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you get started on your writing process? Like when did you decide that writing was your heart?
So, basically, I have been writing since I was a teenager, but of course, when you're much younger, you don't have that level of confidence to publish anything. You think you're not good enough, your writing isn't good enough. And then I have been very imaginative and very introverted. So I created all of these characters and I wanted to do something, with all of this going on in my head for years. So eventually, around 10 years ago now, I thought, why not write something? And before writing my debut novel, The Rose Within, I had never even written an article, a fictional article. I mean, I used to write a lot of legal stuff. And it worked out really well. So I think that it was probably because of that imagination that was building up in my head over a period of several decades that it came out on paper and it came out well.
Okay, awesome. So when you start writing a story or a book, like how do you begin? Like what inspires you to get started? And then how do you begin that process?
So what happens is, and I think that this is probably the same with every writer, you get inspired by the circumstances in your own life or the people that you've met either in the past or, something that's happened in the present. It could be something good or it could unfortunately be something tragic.
Right.
And in my case, it's been a combination of different factors, different people in my life who've come and gone, who are still here, and they've inspired me. And circumstances, and sometimes it's also a form of escapism as well. Yeah, so I somehow feel people ask me, why can't you set any of your books in the modern era? And I just can't do that. I encounter writer's block. I just have to go back into that Victorian, England zone that I'm in.
Right.
So yeah, so there are a combination of factors that have inspired me.
So before you start writing, is there any type of research that you do? Like how do you get the correct setting in your mind? You said you write in Victorian settings, so tell us a little bit
A
about that.
Yeah, a lot of research, Karine. I mean, especially for these legal thrillers, I've had to go back and read statutes from the 19th century. I've had to research case law. I've had to research the actual case proceedings from the Old Bailey's website as well. And then, of course, I've done a lot of reading in terms of the fiction of the era. And so in When we talk about Tainted Whispers, I was inspired by the Oscar Wilde trial. So I had to read up everything about the trial and the cross examination between the defense lawyer and Wilde, etc. So a lot of research has gone into these books to make them historically and factually accurate. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work.
Okay. So, you said that you are an attorney and that you also like to incorporate scenes from, your career into the book. Like, how is that process? Do you sort of say, okay, this is what's going to happen before you even write it, or do you plot it out? Like, how do you incorporate that?
So initially, I write a chapter by chapter synopsis before doing anything. But of course, once I'm writing the book itself, everything just changes, and then it just changes in terms of what's happening during the day. Something new could happen in my life, and I'll just write that in the book. But yes, so many of the cases that I've actually dealt with have actually inspired me as well, and I have put bits of those as well in this book in particular, because I presently deal a lot with gender-based violence. I deal with sexual harassment. I deal with human trafficking and all sorts of things. So you will find bits of those aspects in this book in particular.
Okay. So, what would you say is your favorite character, or who would you say, rather, is your favorite character in the book?
So when we talk about Tainted Whisper, so it's this woman over here on the cover page. So this is Shirley Lester. She's the American heroine of the book, and she is my favorite character because I mean, I think I said this in my previous interview with you that you've got on your website as well, that it's hard to find, very genuine, noble, and, exceptional people in this day and age. And I have come across some of those people in my life. And then I thought, why not, uh, you know, create a character based on all of these people, which some of them were related to me, some of them were friends or just people who I've known over the years. And Shirley Lister embodies that noble, genuine, decent spirit that we crave for in this world.
Right, right. So, have you had any struggles in your writing process? I know we all deal with writer's block. Have you dealt with that, and how do you handle it?
Yes, so I've dealt with writer's block. Well, firstly, there have been times when I've tried to write, something in the modern times, and that hasn't worked out. So I've just gone back in the past. But apart from that, what happens is that when you're just monotonously just writing something without taking breaks, without traveling, you're just stuck at home or in a room, it just becomes very difficult for you to focus on things. And many people think that actually the fact that you're stuck in a room means that you'll produce something really good, and that's actually not the case. I would
Right.
actually suggest to every writer that it's best to take breaks and to travel as well during the process of writing, because you come back with fresh ideas, fresh characters as well. So it really does help you. So that's what helped me when I encountered writer's block.
Okay. So, what type of advice would you give to other writers out there?
So I'm a self-published author, and I know how difficult it is for those who are self-publishing their own books. But I would say that it has been a very rewarding journey for me, and I don't mean that financially, but I mean that in every other way apart from the financial aspect. And I would say that if you have a passion, just go for it, because suppressing your thoughts, suppressing your emotions is just going to backfire. So if there's something going on in your head, just put it to paper and create something extraordinary.
Right. So how long between writing the book and editing the book did it take to, from the beginning to end to publishing it?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
So how do you just keep yourself motivated through that whole year?
See, it's the characters in the book. When I'm writing something, because I'm very introverted, I my interactions with the characters are almost real, or at least they feel very real for me. So that was something that actually kept me motivated, because I every time I woke up, I thought, okay, now I'm going to write a new chapter, which means an interaction with one of the characters, and especially if it was with my favorite character, that's what motivated me more. So that's what kept me going.
Awesome, awesome. So if you had just one piece of advice just about the editing process, because that, I have to say, that's my biggest weakness. Like I can write for days, but as soon as it gets to the editing process, I'm like, oh my goodness. So what kind of advice would you give for that part of the process?
So, when it comes to editing, you can either hire a professional editor or you can do it yourself. Now, I did it myself when for this fifth book, and I can't tell you how many drafts I've got. I've got an ultimate, I've got a reviewed, I've got a final. I've got hundreds of different names for these different drafts, and again, it's very tiresome. It's very cumbersome. You get really tired, and I would advise everyone that if you can't for any reason hire a professional editor, if you can't pay one, then just ask a friend to
Right.
read through, and that helps as well. I did that as well, but I had to do the bulk of the work myself, which again was tiring, but I had to get it right.
Right, right. So how do you organize, like when you're drafting stuff, there's a sort of a comment that from Megan Russ that says, "Oh, I understand that so many new draft names." So I don't know how everybody else organizes, but I have, I'll save a copy and then save another copy, and pretty soon I have 20 copies of saved documents. I don't know. How's your process?
Yeah, that's exactly what I go through as well. And I find it very hard to find the actual draft at the end. I find it hard to find that manuscript. But yeah, that is exactly what I have gone through as well with most of my books, but especially with this one because it's very, very detailed.
Right.
So yeah.
So is there any type of software that that might be your favorite to utilize that you could sort of just toss out there for us to take a note on?
I don't, unfortunately. I mean, I have occasionally consulted ChatGPT. I won't lie; it does help now and then, but that's about it. I mean, everything else was just original. I mean, it has to be original. So yeah, and I'm sure that there are so many software, so many different apps that people can now, rely on when it comes to writing. So maybe for my sixth book, I might look into that.
Right. And can you show us your book again? Because your cover is very beautiful. So do you have any pointers on, authors looking to get beautiful covers for their books?
Well, you can always get in touch with the lady who created this. Her name is Jelena Zibert, and she's based in Serbia. She created four of the cover pages for my books. I'm just going to show you this one as
Oh, go
well,
ahead.
The Raven's Call.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, this was beautiful, and this one is just simply breathtaking. So, yeah, I was just lucky to have come across her on the internet in 2018, I believe, and so we've been in contact since then. Um, and all of these book covers are original drawings, paintings. So yeah,
Oh. So you said the other book is called what again?
it's called The Raven's Call.
Okay, how about you tell us a little bit about that one? The
Sure.
Raven Call.
Yeah, so The Raven's Call again is a Victorian Gothic fiction, again set in 1899. It's actually a very beautiful story because it has this mixture of, Sherlock Holmes, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the Agatha Christie mysteries as well. And it's about this detective who receives this anonymous note, and then he goes to this English countryside house to investigate a missing person, and then he comes across a number of characters within that house, and then there's one mystery, and another. And then the focus of that book, of course, is on the raven and the mystery of the raven. And then we go back to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. So people ask me if that inspired me, but only in terms of the title. The story, of course, is completely different. And at the end, it boils down to a very emotional and heartbreaking story. I think if we were to, if you were to ask me which one of my books were the most tragic, it would definitely be The Raven's Call.
Okay, so the Raven's Call is for readers who love to have their hearts broken, I assume.
Oh, yes, definitely. Shattered is probably the word.
Oh man. Okay, so then the other one is probably not a heartbreaker because you didn't describe it. Does it have a happy? Well, you don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, no. I'll say this that the ending of the Tainted Whispers of Eden is it's a positive one. So yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you want to tell us like where authors or readers can reach you or find your work or your books, like where, a website?
So my books are all available on Amazon.co.uk. The Kindle version is definitely available. The paperbacks are available for some. For the others, they're just in the process of becoming available on the Amazon website. But please go to Amazon.co.uk because for some reason they don't show up on Amazon.com. Yes, and well, if you were in Pakistan, you could go to a bookstore and buy the books. But I know that you're abroad, so you'll probably have to do with the Kindle version for now.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So as soon as we wrap up, I'm going to make sure that we post all of your links, including your books and stuff in the chat. And if there is anything else that you would like the readers to know or the listeners to know, or I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but if anything that you want to say, go ahead and tell us.
So I just want to say, I just want to say this to everybody that, we're all passionate about writing, and I think most of us are self-published. So help other self-published writers. I mean, in this entire journey, there have been many writers, some from America, in fact, who've really helped me. They've gone ahead and written reviews for me. They've encouraged me, and the smallest level of encouragement that you can get from someone means a lot to you.
Right.
And you never know where life might take you. I entered the Raven's Call in a local book award last year in Pakistan, and it got nominated into the category of best English fiction.
Hey,
So wonderful things can happen, and I will tell everybody to just go ahead and do what makes them happy.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we put all of your links and your stuff in the chat for all of the listeners and watchers to hear. And thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me, Corinne. I'm truly humbled. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care.